Hello, guys. This is Chris from DSX Machina, and I'm with.
Oh.
That's okay. Just
And I'm Dave from Rampant Wolf Games.
exactly. He doesn't need my introduction. We're here with another very annoying top 5 list that I'm sure people, Mom, will be arguing about for at least 5 minutes.
Yeah.
My fiance doesn't even watch these, by the way.
Yeah, well. I know my brother watches them.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, he's that one downvote.
He must be.
He's like, screw this guy.
Yeah.
So, okay, and we are talking about top 5 games with expansions that need to stop making expansions.
Correct.
I literally amended my list 3 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I don't want to see it. Look at it.
My number 5 has got like 2 that I'm going to flip flop for until we actually say what number 5 is.
I have one mic drop in mind,
Yeah.
just to be a jerk. All right. Okay. So anyway, these are games that either have a few expansions, or they have way too many expansions, or the expansions that they have are junk, and they have to stop making expansions because all their expansions are bad.
Now, are we going to expand that to include games that just need to stop coming out with different versions of themselves, i.e.
I think we define expansions for any game that has a name that has more than one of them.
Okay,
So that
good.
could be either expansions to an existing core game or continuous variations of the same game.
Okay, good, because then my number 2 falls into that at least.
Yeah, I figured as much because remakes, like, it's... Because obviously we're going to have a list of the top 5 games that need expansions, and that was a hard list to make, but it's actually relatively easy to find games that really need to stop. There are a few that are just like, no, this is actually pretty good, but there are quite a few that just need to, like, guys, stop.
Yes.
So
Great.
we'll start with number 5. Okay, there's a point where we have to create some variation because now we're just going through the rhythms. Okay. All right,
Number 5.
number 5. Okay, mine is a very very bizarre one because they're not the only company making expansions for it, and that's Cards Against Humanity. Cards Against Humanity have made expansions.
Yep.
And then are at least 2 to 3 different companies.
Guards Against Humanity, Crabs Against Humidity, and I can't remember the third one, but yeah.
They stopped being funny a long time ago. I have the bigger, blacker box.
Yep.
I've never purchased any of the other variations. And the game itself ran itself dry before I even got to the expansions.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, like, literally, we were burning through the deck. And we're going through this deck all the way through. And we got tired of the game before we even got to the end of the blacker box. And I know you have it as well, but it is definitely one of those games where it's one of those games where the novelty has died off very much for me. So
Yeah.
the reason why I tell them the expansions have to stop is because I don't think anyone's I don't think any serious gamers playing that game anymore, and I'm not playing that game anymore. So there's no point them or even the other companies
Yeah.
to release any more expansions. The joke well, the bad joke well is dried up.
Yeah. See, so my number 5 is as well Cards Against Humanity.
Really?
But it is. But
Wow,
the
our
reason
first, it's like the first time
It is the
outside of
first.
Gloomhaven we've actually
and cut back. So, yeah.
I gotta find a way to add a visual effect to that.
Yeah, you know what? My problem with it is that, honestly, Guards Against Insanity I found to actually be better than Cards Against Humanity.
I've heard some of the expansions were actually funnier.
Yeah, and so what ended up happening was
Because you always have, depending on how big a hand you get, 5, 8, and then people are playing with 10, you're going to have so much trash in Cards Against Humanity. Things are just not funny.
well, and the problem that I find, and, you know, this is more of a location-specific thing, Cards Against Humanity is too... I mean this in the nicest way possible. I'm just saying it is a problem with the game. It's too American. There are jokes on those cards that just don't apply to Canadians, or we look at them and we're like,
Or they're very topical to the times.
very political, which, I like a good political debate sometimes.
Yeah,
but...
exactly. Like they have to do an entire expansion of Trump jokes now, but they don't because they made it 7 or 8 years ago, and it was all Obama jokes.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, these are all great, but it's a little late for that now.
Exactly.
And you guys like, Obama's like, oh yeah, that's like 7 years too late.
But Cards Against Insanity went away from that. They went to let's make this raunchier, which I find hilarious because especially when you start playing, because I'll whip out Cards Against Humanity with my parents, and there's nothing more interesting than seeing my mother try and say some of those cards.
My mother, we played this. My sister is one of those dime store cornerstone weekend gamers, which means she'll play. She has like 3 games she'll play because they're fun party games. That's all she'll do.
Yeah,
we played her play Sagrada once, and she was like, "What is this?" and she wanted to whip out Cards Against Humanity, play with us, including my mother. And my mother.
That was the bell to tell you that it's time to turn over your chicken. No. Anyways, what are you saying?
And honestly, I felt and the things my mother would like, things that, like dirty jokes about my dead father. Like that's how.
Oh,
like wow! And my sister just had ghostly white. I'm like, she was almost winning the game.
Yeah, that was. There was cards that were coming out then while my mother was reading them out. There were words I would never hear come out of my mother's mouth, and you were just like really lewd sexual acts. It was just kind of. That's the part I enjoy about Cards Against Humanity. It forces people out of their skin, and that's the part I enjoy about it. Just because it's good to see people outside of their.
Yeah. No. And yet, for me, when someone says, "Let's play Cards Against Humanity," I'm like, "Oh."
You must have had fun the other night, then.
No, we don't play cards. Only time I played Cards Against Humanity, the last time was with you. That was quite a few months ago.
Yeah.
And my sister, well, let's play Cards Against Humanity. I'm like, we're so beyond that. Anyways, that's our 5 pick.
Number 4.
This is the one I can't remember which one I tossed out and replaced, but this is a new one I just simply added in. Pandemic.
Okay.
I added Pandemic just now.
What did they announce? What's coming out?
Fall of Rome. They just announced a new one called Fall of Rome, and Nicole, my fiance, said, "Oh yeah, they have the new Pandemic," and I thought, "Is that the Huddersfield in joke that's been passing around?" I don't know how this got started, the Huddersfield thing. It started I think it started internally within Dice Tower as a joke between a couple guys, and now it's kind of moved beyond the group. Now it's populating the Dice Tower forum. This joke about something about, I don't know what Huddersfield is. Is it? I don't know. Someone has to explain that to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, they announced Fall of Rome. They're coming out with a full on, and it was neat when they came out with Pandemic Legacy, and they came out with the dice game, The Cure, right?
Oh yeah, Pandemic. Yes, Career. Yes, yeah, correct. It is The Cure. It's right there, yeah.
And I thought those were some neat ideas.
Yes.
Then they started coming out with these. There's the one variation which changes the main board, completely changes it.
Yep, I have one.
Yep, and then they started coming out with these variations, like. It's Pandemic, except it's not Pandemic. It has nothing to do with the disease, or it might do with the disease, but we've changed it up. But they're not changing it up. It's basically the exact same set of rules. They've just reskinned it, and they've tweaked a couple things.
Yeah.
But the basic core tenets of gameplay are unchanged. Core tenets of gameplay, which I find frustrating, because I still think they designed the game to be too difficult. As part of that group of co-op games where they take pride in the fact that people will play the game habitually without winning, and which is the problem you have with Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories has a reputation as being popular because no one can beat it.
Yeah,
and that's that's like literally sadomasochism. I don't get it. So yeah, Pandemic. Once I got what the hell is it called? Iberia, and we played that, and we've yet to beat it. And we look at Pandemic Iberia as like, wow, this is a neat idea, but why don't I just play Pandemic? The system works so well. And then came out the Rising Tides, and you look at that, and I thought, why don't I just play base Pandemic? They've none of these variations have improved
See, Reign of Cthulhu is actually easier than regular Pandemic. I've won that one, and I enjoy that one. And the Rising Tide is more like a game by Matt Leacock called what's it called now? It's Forbidden Island.
Forbidden Island or Forbidden Desert?
Forbidden Island.
Okay.
Because, basically, the parts of the island are sinking, while in Rising Tide, parts of the land are sinking.
Yeah.
Same theory. Me and Brittany hate playing Pandemic because we can't win, but we will pull out Reign of Cthulhu or Rising Tide and play that and win, no problem.
Yeah.
So, I agree they need to stop, but I do agree, or I disagree, there is places for some of them.
Potentially, but for me, it's just one of those things like this. I don't know. I think Pandemic, the whole practice, and this is a theme you'll see with a lot of my idea expansions, is that expansions, the name itself has validity, and they should use that to create variations on the concepts that divorce themselves almost completely from the basic gameplay. Create something new that's thematically similar. Create another Pandemic game.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's completely different from the base system, right? I think Pandemic Legacy was a novel idea, but all the other Pandemics are variations on the same rule set. I don't want variations on the same rule set. I want variations on the game.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why the dice game I thought was actually pretty novel. Mm-hmm. But these identical games were just changing the skins and adding 2 rules. Got tired real fast. So that was my number 4 Pandemic.
Okay. So my number 4 is going to cause a lot of hate mail if we actually got mail.
That's true. We don't get mail.
Is X-Wing.
Oh wow.
And part of that too is that
isn't that the whole isn't that like just like buy our miniatures.
Yep. And then on top of that, not only that, but they put out so many expansions for X-Wing that they actually the expansions started breaking the game. Mm-hmm. They decided, no, let's go ahead and we will restart the whole thing and go with X-Wing version 2.
Right.
So, and now on top of that, we'll sell you conversion packs that will convert your existing Edition 1 stuff. Right.
Yeah, that didn't go over too well. Because that's the funny thing about X-Wing, or anything that deals with collecting miniatures from Star Wars. There aren't a lot of official ships.
No.
Because when you really get down to it, there's only there's 3 Star Destroyers and 7 or 8 spaceships.
Yeah.
Right? And you start tapping into the expanded universe, that explodes. But when you really get down to it, there really isn't a lot. So they have to create variations. Either here are ones we're making up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And that's just it. And I know the Star Wars grognards will say that there's lots to pull on from alt canon and the books and stuff for ships and stuff. But
when you have a couple TIE fighters, a couple X-Wings, a Y-Wing, a B-Wing.
Yeah. And, it's great. I know there's people that play it, but I guess my biggest problem was the fact that they just did Edition 2, because that pretty... I play X-Wing, I have Edition 1, but as soon as they hit Edition 2, I was just like... I'm out.
Well, you can still... They don't invalidate your old game. You can still play the game to exhaustion.
Well, no, except for you can't play the two with each other. You can't play Edition 1 with Edition 2.
Do you have a valid point? I think when they decided to release it, and it's like, oh yeah, your old system doesn't work anymore. I'm like, oh... Blank. No, I get you.
Yeah.
So that was your number 4.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so my number 3 is Castle Panic.
Fair enough.
And this is one that's been plagued with both curses. It has too many expansions for the core game, and now it's making all these reskin variations. Some of those are good. Star Trek Panic is a really good game. I think it's a really good expansion. I think it's actually better than the core Castle Panic. I will play Star Trek Panic before I play a base Castle Panic.
Yeah.
But then the reason why I have issues, because now they have Munchkin Panic, they have Walking Dead Panic, they have all these same freaking game basically. They play with a few rules. But the problem, of course, is that the core game has 5 or 6 basic expansions, all of which, I think most of which aren't necessary.
And also make the game harder than it needs.
Oh yeah, make the game incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Every expansion just adds complexity and adds more difficulty, and you, as we do, we have them having to homebrew the bag,
Yeah.
so you're pulling things off that are more fair, and you're not constantly referring to the rules. Yeah, there are certain expansions that are just awful. They're just not very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, Castle Panic. It's a great game. A couple of the expansions are good, but they've stopped adding expansions to the core game because they realized they broke it. And now instead of just adding more stuff onto that fire, that dumpster fire, that they're just going to reskin the core game and do what everyone else is doing and doing a Munchkin Panic and a Walking Dead Panic and a Star Trek Panic and a Game of Thrones Panic. And they don't make a Game of Thrones Panic, but there will be a Game of Thrones Panic.
Well, winter's coming, you gotta protect the wall.
Yeah. They will tap every franchise out there, every single IP, which means in 3 years it's just going to be the next Monopoly.
Exactly.
Who buys these? But that's my number 3 pick, Castle Panic.
Okay. So my number 3 is going to be a very controversial one, even for you.
Oh, really?
And that is Magic. Now, the reason why...
What?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Magic the Gathering.
Where's my glove? I'm going to smack you with my glove. How dare you?
It's a lot like Monopoly. They just keep putting out more stuff for it. And it's just like, okay, enough's enough. Stop. Come up with something different. Do something new. But that's just me. Personal preference.
You will be smote, sir. The lightning will strike.
Alright, so that's my number 3. Quick and short.
Oh. How dare you. The chase is why we live. I don't know anyone who calls it the chase other than Wheaton.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. He must have developed that idea. My number 2 pick, we're on number 2. It's something I just did a review on. In fact, it just passed 5K views, which means it's the most viewed video I've ever done on Dice Tower. And that is Carcassonne.
I will agree with that one.
This is a game that should have been put to pasture a decade ago.
Yeah.
There are 10 expansions to the core game. 10 expansions to the core game. And there's something like 12 to 15 different variations. In total, there are 60 titles. That would have the Carcassonne name. That includes little tiny box ones. There's 6 of those. There is these 2 plastic meeples called the Phantom. And
are you counting the chocolate Carcassones? Chocolate Carcassonne?
Oh, I'm not even talking about... And then there's all the variations, the reskinnings that we talked about,
Star Wars Carcassonne.
Which is really hard to find. Like,
yeah, you have to get it out of Germany. That's pretty much the only place you can get it. It's
there must
weird.
be something about exclusivity about that.
It's very odd, yeah.
Yeah. And my video was 20... It was about 17 minutes long, and I went through every single title in our collection, and people always complain in the video. It got a lot of upvotes. People are jokingly complaining that it's not really a complete Carcassonne because we're missing so many expansions, even though we talked about 6 different variations and 6 different expansions. I said it's actually, it just touches to the surface of the 110 actual ISBN titles with the word Carcassonne in it.
Yeah.
So that is a pretty obvious number 2 is Carcassonne.
All right.
Your number 2.
My number 2. Monopoly. I don't think I need to go into it. It needs to stop. Done. Enough.
I don't know why I didn't put Monopoly on my list. Monopoly could have replaced Pandemic, but Pandemic cheesed me off with Fall of Rome today. Mm-hmm. So I literally went, not Monopoly, and put Pandemic just as a middle finger. But yeah, Monopoly, totally. I think the reason why I don't think of Monopoly and to stop is because I have such apathy towards Monopoly. It's like that brother or that one sibling Or that one, oh no, I would say one friend you don't talk to, or that one brother you just excommunicate, that one family, or that one uncle. That's, everyone has that one. I don't have that one uncle, so I don't have that cliche of that one uncle, right? But so people have that one uncle that they don't invite to parties. He's excommunicated.
Yeah.
Monopoly is so excommunicated from my life that I don't acknowledge its existence. So I couldn't put it on the list because, in my opinion, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. See, I have 2 copies of Monopoly, and I will say why.
I have 2 copies of Monopoly. I have Star Wars Monopoly and Nintendo Monopoly.
See, I have Star Wars Monopoly, and that was
Everybody
got for me by my parents when I first started getting really heavily into board gaming again. For Christmas, they were like, "Here's a board game." I was like,
Oh.
you know, and because so it's from my parents, so I will never get rid of it because it's a sentimental thing. And then we got Doctor Who Monopoly because we love Doctor Who, but that's as far as it's ever going to go.
Have you played them?
Yes. Well, the Doctor Who one, not the other one.
We have Prince Georgeopoly.
And
I annihilated Nicole, and then I made her promise that we would never play it again.
there you go.
That's our town, by the way. There's somehow I can't remember which local group decided to put together a limited run of Prince Georgeopoly of our hometown, and it's our hometown is very strange. It's a very small town that hits the headlines nationally, like internationally, at least once a year. It's very strange, but yeah, Prince Georgeopoly. Yeah, you're right about that. That's a smart choice. So, but that's number one. Okay. This is interesting. So I thought this was going to be controversial, but apparently it's not. It's Magic.
Oh,
It's number one for me.
really?
Yeah. It is. They'll never stop.
No,
They'll never stop stopping.
no, because they're printing money. I mean, cards.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I never. They're going to continue doing that, and then they have created a very successful economy engine where they retire a whole set of I had a really amazing elf deck, a tribe deck it's called. So I'm sorry, you people who don't like tribe decks, and there's a lot of people who don't like tribe decks. I had a really killer tribe deck. I bought a core set, which was a green monster deck, a basic build green monster deck. And I thought, hey, this is kind of cool. And then someone said, well, if you like those, you should try an elf deck, which is also green. So I did my research. I made an elf deck. I purchased the cards. I didn't collect randomly. I've never just bought a box of boosters. I'm never going to cross that line. I never have, and I never will because I don't play Magic anymore. I went out, found the rare cards, built an engine, and it became unkillable. Like, it was like in 50 games, I'd lose like four or five games. Online, I would have a 9% win streak using standard rules. Then a year passes, every single card in that system gets kicked off standard or tournament play, so they weren't legal to be used, and they all fell into classic, right? And I was just like,
In other words, they found out they broke the system.
well, no, that's not just that. There's tons of things that break the system all the time. There's I mean, the fact that Planeswalkers are gone. They kicked off Planeswalker, and that was like a tenant feature for so many years. But no, we're kicking all the Planeswalkers off, and I have Planeswalkers. Yeah. And it's the same thing, right? And so I moved on, and I made a really kick-ass artifact deck, which people absolutely hated. It took longer to cook off. Mm-hmm. But it did have there was a 50% chance I could bring down a Blightsteel Colossus in 4 turns.
Yeah.
Right? And there was a 20% chance I could do it in 3.
Yeah.
Other than that, it would come down in usually 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And so everyone hated it because the Blightsteel comes down and it wins the game.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that got pushed off. So it's just like, nope, I think I'm done. I think I drew that line. I still have my cards. I will never give up my cards unless someone says, it turns out your
deck is worth $5,000.
Yeah, I was like, get out of here. But I take pretty good care of them. I shepherd a whole bunch of cards for my friends, but I've never, my online deck and my base deck, I piece together my own deck.
Yeah.
I never crossed that line. I spent maybe $150, maybe no. I'd say I paid $200, we'll round up. I spent $200 on Magic, and that's far less than what some of my friends
Oh,
have.
yeah. Easily.
They spend And that's one box line. They would buy a box of boosters.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's my number one pick. Really easy. That's why I wasn't think it's controversial at all. Magic the Gathering.
Okay. My number one, quick, because we already covered it, Carcassonne.
Ha
Just needs to stop. It's got to stop. So I don't really have much.
That's why I said this list was hard because this list wasn't hard because there are certain really, really bad committers of sin.
Yes, they're
Yes.
not necessarily
You might as well
bad
just
games,
paint, you
but
might as
they're
well paint
game.
an A on them.
Yeah, it's not the games are bad. So keep that in mind. These games are not bad.
Oh no, Carcassonne got bad. Have you tried playing with more than one or two of the expansions in the big six set?
So the games may be bad, but they just need to stop making expansions. All right, run them down.
All right, so my number. I have my other list over. So my number 5 is Cards Against Humanity. Number 4, Pandemic. Number 3, Castle Panic. Number 2, Carcassonne. And 1 is Magic the Gathering. And
Number 5 is Cards Against Humanity. Number 4 is X-Wing. Number 3 is Magic the Gathering. Number 2 is Monopoly. And number 1 is Carcassonne.
all right, look at that. We're bringing it into 30 minutes or so. Okay, I have been Chris.
And I've been Dave. And remember, the rules are just a suggestion.
That's what we're going with.
Trying it out.
Okay.